Okay, I want to talk a little bit more about 5G deployment regarding the mobile standard being released globally, specifically the portion that involves millimeter wave, which is the extremely high frequency range that's anything from 30 to 300 gigahertz according to certain standards. I realize there's different standards that makes that fall within different ranges, but we're just going to use that one for now. The reason why I'm concerned is because once you get into millimeter wave deployment, there's been some clearly designated weaponized forms of millimeter wave that involves like a pencil beam type characteristic that has a very fine focus to it. They specifically call it a pencil beam signal characteristic inside the documentation, and that's why it makes it so desirable. And since the difference between what's existing now is mostly using, tower-based technologies that are in the ultra-high frequency range, I think it's logical to demonstrate a little bit of additional concern for this type of technology being deployed, specifically because historically it's been used for things that involved weapon systems, and specifically one called the active denial system, which was designed by Raytheon as a heat ray that was used on vehicles in the Afghanistan conflict war, rather. So what I would like to kind of impress upon people here is that, now that we're getting into this range of frequencies, and clearly some of the ones that are going to be deployed will be eventually getting into a range pretty close to this, I think it's worth mentioning that, we really should be talking more in depth about what type of protections will we have as a citizenry to discuss potential abuses of this technology if it's deployed in a rogue fashion, or if somebody makes a decision to deploy some of these additional frequencies that are in the active denial system type range. Now, here in the United States, most of these deployments are going to involve 28 gigahertz and 39 gigahertz, which is far from 95 gigahertz. But still, since we are dealing in a millimeter wave type frequency range, and it's really just a matter of, being able to pulse that frequency at a close distance and things like that. And I've heard reports in Europe of 60 and 100 gigahertz being deployed in certain areas. I think we really should be having a larger debate about, what are we going to be able to do to discuss when there's a potential abuse of these technologies. So the reason why I want to leave you with that thought and not get too excessively into the larger debate is because I think this is some food for thought here. This is from Wikipedia about the active denial system. It says the active denial system is a non-lethal direct energy weapon developed by the U.S. military designed for area denial, perimeter security, and crowd control. Informally, the weapon is also called the heat ray, since it works by heating the surface of targets, such as the skin of targeted human subjects. Raytheon is currently marketing a reduced-range version of this technology. The ADS was deployed in 2010 with the United States military in the Afghanistan war, but was withdrawn without seeing combat. On August 20th, 2010, the LA Sheriff's Department, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, announced that its intention to use this technology on prisoners in the Pitchess Detention Center in LA, stating that its intent to use it in operational evaluation in situations such as breaking up prisoner fights. The ADS is currently only a vehicle-mounted weapon, though U.S. Marines and police are both working on portable renditions. ADS was developed under the sponsorship of the DoD Non-Lethal Weapons Program with the Air Force Research Laboratory as a lead agency. There are reports that Russia and China are developing their own versions of the active denial system. The ADS works by firing a high-powered beam of 95 gigahertz waves at a target, which corresponds to a wavelength of 3.2 millimeters. The ADS millimeter wave energy works on a similar principle as a microwave oven, exciting the water and fat molecules in the skin and instantly heating them via dielectric heating. One significant difference is that a microwave oven uses the much lower frequency and longer wavelength of 2.45 gigahertz. The short millimeter wave used in ADS only penetrate the top layers of skin, with most of the energy being absorbed within the 0.4 millimeter, whereas microwaves will penetrate into human tissues about 17 millimeter. The ADS's effect of repelling humans occurs at slightly higher than 44 degrees Celsius, 111 degrees Fahrenheit, though first-degree burns occur at about 51 degrees Celsius, 124 degrees Fahrenheit, and second-degree burns occur at about 58 degrees Celsius. Okay, in testing, pea-sized blisters have been observed in less than 0.1% of ADS exposures, indicating that second-degree surface burns have been caused by the device. The radiation burns caused are similar to microwave burns, but only on the skin surface due to the decreased penetration of shorter millimeter waves. The surface temperature of a target will continue to rise so long as the beam is applied at a rate dictated by the target's material and distance from the transmitter, along with the beam's frequency and power level set by the operator. Most human test subjects reached their pain threshold within 3 seconds, and none could endure more than 5 seconds. So, I thought that was worth noting. You can read more information about it. I'll leave some links about the active denial system from Wikipedia. But, you know, I think that we really should have a larger debate about what's going on with the deployment of millimeter waves specifically in the United States and elsewhere, especially since there's reports that people are planning on putting 100 gigahertz into tunnel systems, into public stations and things like that. To me, that would be a sign that potentially there might be some groups that are thinking, well, this is a good way to just have on hand a system installed for crowd dispersal, to chase away homeless people, things of that nature. It always starts off as something that they can get a certain degree of, you know, I guess you could say lack of compassion type, you know, crowd control type systems where they say, hey, you know, would you like to see your subway stations cleaned up or things like that, you know, or your tubes cleaned up and things like that. And, you know, I would say that, you know, be careful what you will allow for with this technology when it comes to these types of things, because you might be inviting a much larger, you know, problem into your world. And I really believe that at this point we really should be having a more logical, rational debate about what's happening here, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be creating a lot of disinformation around 5G intentionally to get it seem as if this is a crazy thing to complain about, when in all actuality, I'm telling you as a person that's been in the industry for a long time, millimeter wave introduces a whole different dynamic to it that UHF simply wasn't capable of doing before. We could all sort of brush off concerns as engineers and technicians when it came to UHF, because it doesn't have that same type of pencil beam characteristic as the technology that's being rolled out now. The antenna characteristics are different, the way they're being put into different areas are different, and it does require a little bit of additional evaluation and critical review by professionals, I think. And if there's a way that I can help facilitate that or be a part of that larger debate, I would really like to be a part of it. And I just hope that people will support me in that endeavor, because that will require some testing gear and equipment that right now I simply don't have. And I'll get into that in another article, but I just wanted to leave you with this thought on 5G. Millimeter wave and the correlation to the active denial system, because you know, people's concerns about what's being done with this technology is legitimate, but I would caution you, don't immediately run around saying that everything is this, because you know, there is a logical argument to say that not everything that's in that millimeter wave spectrum, 30 to 300 gigahertz, is capable of doing this. But you know, again, we do need to have some systems in place through which we can at least have a discussion, a public debate, and be able to report these things. And that's all falls within the range of a logical, reasonable expectation from the citizenry to its government. Thank you.